to my channel. Today I have some wonderful guests that I've had a chance to collaborate with. We have Tommy Martin and his wonderful wife Phoebe. And Tommy and Phoebe have a YouTube channel and they talk all about their experience in medical school. They also went the Caribbean route like I did. And they recently matched to Residency, which is very exciting. Yeah, seriously. Can't wait for that day. And so, today we're going to be asking them some questions about their experience at their school and their experience on the interview trail and matching to Residency, and just answer some questions that I've had from you guys that I haven't really been able to answer because they've kind of crossed a path that I haven't yet traversed. So we're going to just get into some questions there and answer some of the things you guys have asked me. So without further ado, let's just jump in, and if you guys can tell me and my viewers a little bit about yourselves, let's start with that.
All right, of course. Well, my name is Tommy Martin, as Casey told you. This is my beautiful wife, Phoebe Martin, and we are both two fourth-year medical students that had just matched into a combined residency of internal medicine and pediatrics.
And I matched into pediatrics, and luckily enough, we both matched at the exact same hospital, so we were absolutely thrilled. So we'll be starting in July at the University of Arkansas.
Yes, we're extremely happy. So just a little bit more of our background. So I went to a small school in Salina, Kansas. I went to a small undergraduate there, and Phoebe went to
Quinnipiac University in Hamden, Connecticut.
I played football and she played lacrosse, and then after undergraduate there, we made our way to St. George's University, and that is where we met and fell in love, and that's where we studied medicine. So we did our first 2 years of kind of the basic sciences on the island of Grenada, which is an absolutely incredible island. We loved it, and then we did our next 2 years in New Jersey doing our clinical rotations.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so exciting hearing about your path and how you guys met in medical school. It's just so fun. And so I guess I'll just jump into the questions that I have for you guys now that we have had a chance to meet you a little bit. So because we're going to be talking more about the residency process today, I thought I'd start by asking you guys, what did you do to find residency programs to apply to that were inclusive of IMGs? Because as a lot of us know, not all programs will accept IMG applicants.
Sure. So luckily enough, every residency program on their website, they post the pictures of all of their house staff. And house staff is the first years, the second years, third years, fourth years, no matter what specialty. And they all include the doctor's name and also what school they went to. So Tommy and I literally went to almost every single program in the country and just looked at who the residents were and which schools they came from. And if I saw St. George's University, which was our school, we put a big asterisk next to it, meaning not only are they IMG friendly, but they're comfortable with students from our school. And then we went to the next level. Are there students from Ross? Are there students from other countries? Are there students from no matter where other than just besides the United States? We really looked at that. And then that made us more confident that the school was going to be IMG friendly.
Right. And another thing that we did is that our school, the match results from our school, we'd go through and look at all the programs that our school had matched into from the previous year. And we even went all the way till 2010 and saw different schools where students from our school matched at. And then we knew for sure that all of those programs would take IMGs. And so we'd, of course, apply to those programs. And then ones that we were not too sure about, we'd even call those programs and ask them, look, I'm an IMG. These are my board scores. Would you guys even be interested in looking at our application or things of that nature? We called every single program that we applied to.
Okay. That's good to know because I've been kind of doing that, and I've been wondering if there's a better way to do it, but it seems like you just have to manually go through and click on their residency program pages and look through their PGY 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6 classes to see where they've matched. But I'm glad to know because that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, it's brutal, but it's worth it.
Yeah, our school actually made, basically what we're doing, they made an Excel sheet of all of that information, but I still didn't even trust it because I wanted to see for myself the places where IMG friendly, because every application costs more and more money. And don't get me wrong, we did apply to places that didn't have any history of IMGs either, because you don't know, for a basket without shooting. So that's the way we kind of went into it too. A place wasn't going to interview us if we didn't even apply. So with staying in our financial constraints, we did apply to some places that didn't have any history of IMGs and just hoping that they'd give us a shot.
Yeah. Okay, and did you guys use Frida as well to find programs, or did you just search programs, like just by Googling programs in the area you wanted to apply to as well?
Yeah.
So a lot of our classmates use Frida, and a lot of people use Frida, but to be honest, I did not even go to their website, so I couldn't tell you anything about Frida whatsoever.
Yeah.
I just, I want med peds, and so there are only 70 med peds programs as it is, and so I just researched all 70 of those. But now with internal medicine or pediatrics, like Phoebe did pediatrics, there are a lot more programs, and that's where freedom would probably be beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. On ERAS, when you go to apply, you're going to add the schools that you apply to, and that provides you a list of every single program in the country. So that was where I got my list from, per se, to be able to find out, because I didn't even know that some of these residency programs existed. Yeah. But on ERAS, every program that is participating in the match will have their program listed there. And you can even, actually, ERAS provides the contact information of the hospital as well. So it made it pretty easy.
Yeah, that's totally useful information to have, because otherwise you're just waiting until the match and you wouldn't have known until you actually open up ERAS to find out that that's a great resource for you guys.
Right.
Okay. All right. Moving on then. So what do you guys have any specific things that you can think of that maybe made your application stand out as an IMG? Because obviously we're competing against not only international students from around the entire world, but also other American and Canadian trained students. So we kind of have to, step our game up a little bit. What do you think you guys did that helped in that respect?
So I would say, and I hate to say this because I'm the complete opposite. Like when I tell people, like I say, board scores are not everything. But to be honest, like program directors, the first like kind of sifting system they use are board scores. And so I would say that my step 2 CK score would stand out because I did fairly well on that. And so board scores will definitely make you stand out regardless what the rest of your application looks like. And again, I hate to say that because I think that's something that's wrong with medicine, is that how it's so driven by board scores. But other things I would say is in our applications, both of us had a ton of volunteer work, and not things that we just wrote down because we did like 5 minutes of a health fair somewhere, but things that we truly did all throughout our medical school, like raising money to renovate bathrooms in Grenada or things like that. Tons of volunteer and community service, because that really showed, I think, the programs our heart and could see that that we were going to be loving and compassionate doctors. So outside of board scores, I'd say that helped as well.
Yeah, I want to say that most programs, like I think from the outside looking in, and the only reason why I could speak on this is because a lot of program directors talked about this in my interview. They said, Phoebe, when we look at your application, we see that you didn't have the opportunities that American students had in the United States, where there's a bunch of walks and runs and volunteering projects just thrown at your face, flyers everywhere throughout the hospitals. But while you were in Grenada, you didn't let any community or any person go that you didn't help or that you didn't try to help. And many residency programs will talk about the work that they do in their community, and they also talk about the adaptability that you're going to be having to work with, like your teammates and your interns and your co-residents and stuff. And so I really felt like they were trying to almost congratulate us and just thank us for doing the service work that we had done in the Caribbean. So just definitely embrace yourself in the culture. It shows that you can relate to different cultures when you go to residency. Like, be able to talk about things that happened in the country that don't happen in the United States, because that shows that you can move to a whole different country, you can adapt to their way of life, and still succeed in medical school all while doing that.
Yeah, and not only that, you're wherever you're at in an international medical school to go to medical school, but there are so many more important things than just medical school there. Like, we were able to make an impact on all of Grenada, just by showing love and compassion and service work all throughout Grenada. And so, yeah, medical school is very important, but there is also a much bigger picture at hand while you're in whatever country it is that you're studying medicine.
Yeah. So in a way, it gives you an in and being able to demonstrate how much you actually really care and how much you want to help people. Because, of course, people who go into medical school, they usually want to go into it because they like helping people. But in a community where there is so much help to be had, it's really a great chance to just go all out and, use service to help other people. And then, it comes full circle when it comes to your application. So that's great. That's so helpful to know, especially for all of my viewers who are currently on the island or anywhere abroad, really. So make the best of your time there, I guess.
And never bad talk your school, no matter where you come from. I mean, we don't have any bad things to say about our experience at St. George's, but there are a lot of our classmates who will bad talk St. George's or different schools that they go to, and I just think it's so important to take what you have. Being from a Caribbean school, always keep in mind that school gave you the chance to continue in your journey of medical school and be proud of that and be happy of that and try to help out the people after you. And program directors definitely see that because you can talk about your experience and they can easily read your answer and see how your experience was, or even just your outlook on your experience by the way that you answer questions.
Yeah, and that's so true. I think that's something that we can definitely all take away, especially for people who, like myself, who aren't necessarily attending one of the top 4 Caribbean medical schools. And, the majority of the Caribbean med schools aren't necessarily on, the top 4 accredited in all 50 states and have, the long list of things that compare with American schools. And so it's interesting. I look back on the time there, and there are always people complaining about it and being down on the experience and just being very self-deprecating because it's almost like you assume that people are going to look down their nose at you because you're a Caribbean student. And so then you start doing that to yourself. I don't know if it's some kind of defense mechanism or what, but it's easy to get caught up in the I'm not an American student, I'm a Caribbean student kind of mindset. But if you can just kind of accept it and roll with it, that'll totally reflect, I think, well on you in interviews especially. Okay, thanks for that. So next question that I have, I've got my little list right here. So is there anything that you wish that you did do or anything you wish that you didn't do during medical school once you were starting to submit your applications through ERAS? Looking back, is there anything you think, oh man, I wish I did this, or I wish I hadn't have done that?
I wish I didn't worry as much, and obviously, I know everyone watching this right now is probably saying, well, it's much easier to say retrospect, because we have matched, but honestly, you really do have to have confidence in yourself and confidence in the training that you receive. There's so many students that have gone to Caribbean schools before us, and there's thousands and thousands that are going to come after us. And to just be able to trust in the faculty, and once you sign your letter to go to that school, trust in them that they're going to get you through, that they're going to help you match, and that you're going to succeed as a physician. Because I think the biggest personal hindrance of mine was my own personal self-doubt, and I wish I would have really just left that at the airport when I got on the first plane initially to go to school.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, with the application process and things of that nature, I don't know if there's anything that I would change in regards to that. But in my experience in medical school and stuff, I would say just even help more in Grenada. Phoebe and I did a lot in Grenada, but, I look back and we were there for 2 whole years. That's a great amount of time, a lot of time that you can make a huge impact on the whole country. And so even though, we're worried about studying, worried about making these grades and things like that, but even just to be able to take that time back and to give more of myself to the country, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I know, looking back, I think how much time I spent there was really so much more that could have been done. And I think for me, my campus it was a new campus at that location, so it was very small. We were one of the first 3 classes there, so there weren't already a lot of, events or kind of fundraisers that had been going on previously every semester before us. So everything that we wanted to do or pitch into the community had to be started, and there had to be a first person to do that. But then I think back, and some of the events that we did, with AMSA, they were successful, and we were able to, and the health fair that we did is now something that happens like every semester, every couple of semesters, and so it's just kind of getting that ball rolling. So if we could have done that back then on that tiny little campus and that small little island, then it's definitely possible for people all over the place. So
definitely.
Totally.
One thing I'm definitely glad that I did, and Tommy did too for our application process, is when we were filling our applications, we told each other and we committed to it to be ourselves. We weren't going to put anything on there that we weren't passionate about. And you know what? It made interview season so fun.
What did you get asked about the most?
I got asked about eating pizza on every single interview and running and because for hobbies or personal interests, I put things I was actually passionate about or things I was involved with. Everything I got involved with I was passionate about, but the things I listed first were the things I was really passionate about. So it was so easy to go on interviews. I wasn't nervous. I mean, I was nervous about being late, but that's just me in general. But it was just easy to be able to talk about things that I enjoyed. So I would recommend that to everyone. Don't try to be a student that you're not. Just be real, and it'll be so much easier to talk through your interviews when you're talking about things you're passionate about.
Yeah, and I second that completely. Like, that is so important, because on your interviews, if you list a bunch of things that you had very little input on, then when they ask you about it, you're not going to, light up and be full of life about. But when they talk to Phoebe and I about raising money for this children's school, like, my whole face lit up, like, I almost started crying. I was super excited to talk about it, because that's something I was very passionate about. So when you're writing your application, only list the things that when they ask you about them, that you'll just be, ignited with so much passion and fire to talk to them about it.
So that it doesn't come across like you're trying to force something that's not really there. Right. Okay, so then continuing on with talking about your interviews, was there anything that came up in your interviews related to attending a Caribbean medical school? I know you've touched on some of that already, like some of the service opportunities you had in Grenada. Was there anything else that you maybe experienced in your interviews that, say, someone who attended school in the States wouldn't have been asked or wouldn't have been maybe brought up?
Yeah, so for me, one of the places didn't really know a whole lot about international medical students, and so they were worried about how our third and fourth year training was, and if we had adequate training. And so they asked me a lot about my clinical rotations and what we were exposed to and how much we were able to do and things of that nature. So they really wanted to know, and this was just on one interview, but they just wanted to know in depth about our training and things of that nature. But that's honestly the only question out of the ordinary that I would say that was really.
I had an interesting conversation with an associate program director. We talked for a solid 45 minutes about how in third world countries some diagnoses are kept from the patient because there's simply nothing that they can do, and it doesn't change the management of the patient, doesn't change the prognosis, whether they give them the actual diagnosis or not. And we talked about the ethics behind that, and that was like such a great conversation to have. And obviously that's something that only practicing medicine or learning medicine in a third world country allows you to experience and form your own opinion on. So that was really cool. Mm-hmm. But nothing specific. No one was degrading to us at all in interviews. And that goes for the U.S. medical students as well. They wanted to know all about it. They thought it was so cool. Yeah. And I think that the first 2 years of medical school, I was nervous that, going into third year, rotating around with other students, that there might be a negative portrayal of our learning or of our history at an IMG school, but there wasn't any of that. So it was awesome.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so great that you shared that, because even just today, I get emails a lot from people. I don't know about you guys, but I get emails from people asking, as they're doing their research for applying for schools abroad, and that's always one of the primary concerns is I don't want to be discriminated against just because of my education, and I don't want to be denied the chance at a residency purely based off of the name of my school. Mm-hmm. And I usually say, I haven't been through that experience, but I don't think people are going to, look at you and see the name of your school and immediately be critical of you in your interview. If they don't take IMGs, you're not gonna apply there anywhere likely. And unless it's a program that you really want, and if that happens to be the case, they don't want IMGs, and you cut your losses. But for the majority of cases, I feel like people are pretty open. People are respectful and professional and nice. And I think as Caribbean schools particularly have become more common, or it's more common to graduate from Caribbean schools, or even come to the States having done your education or your training abroad. I think there's just so many of us now that I really think the stigma is kind of decreasing, and that kind of negative connotation is being done away with as more awesome residents like you guys are going to become and kind of abolish those bad perceptions. So,
and like the only thing I would definitely add is that we do know some of our friends that transferred into U.S. medical students after the first 2 years because they were applying into urology and plastic surgery or head and neck surgery, and they wanted to increase their chances of getting into those highly specialized fields. They also had, tremendous board scores to back them, and they were still successful in the match. But I do think that to an extent, that little bit of fear that maybe people do email you with about your school having, being held against you can definitely happen if you're applying to a field that only takes 1 resident per year or 2 residents per year, because it's hard enough to get into those specialties, those residencies, even as a U.S. medical student. So it's even harder as an IMG. But, we had our school, did great in the match, but I think that those... maybe you can talk about it. Just there is a few specialties if you do want that specific, plastic surgery, vascular surgery, those orthopedic surgery. Like the school name may be held against you a little bit.
But now, like a lot of the general surgery, OBGYN, like we had tons of students match into those. But some of those extremely competitive ones, you may want to see if you might want to transfer after your basic sciences or something, because even with really good board scores, it's very competitive. But again, I'm not saying you have to, because I believe in the grace of God and whatever God's plan is. If He wants you to be orthopedic surgery and you score a 205 on step 1 to 207 on step 2, and God wants you to be orthopedic surgeon, you're going to be an orthopedic surgeon. But again, that's on an individualized basis.
So I guess that's something worth pointing out, that it is possible for anyone watching to transfer schools from basic sciences into clinical sciences at a different school. Not everyone knows.
You will usually have to repeat a year.
1 year, but it's usually repeating of a clinical year. So some we had a student transfer after his 3rd year, and instead of going into 4th year at the medical school, he had to repeat 3rd and 4th year. But then he successfully matched into plastic surgery, so I'm sure he's really happy he did.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He also had some of the highest board scores I've ever heard of, though.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think we all know some of those students who have just ridiculously high board scores. You're just like, why not me?
Right, yeah.
Okay, well, that's the majority of the questions that I had to ask. I guess the last thing I will put to you guys is, do you have any last pieces of wisdom or advice for those of us who are in the thick of it, who really want to match to a specialty, or preferred specialty, I guess you could say, match in general, but also in the specialty that we want to match into? What would you leave with us?
Good.
I would just say, first, before we end, I want to thank Casey for having Phoebe and I. We absolutely loved being able to talk to all of your subscribers and viewers. But for all of you that are going into the match, and whatever specialty it is, find one that when you go to work, it doesn't feel like you're at work. That you could literally be there all day long and just be filled with joy. Because when you apply to these residency programs and you get into that interview and they allow you to talk about why you want to be a pediatrician or why you want to do med peds, you'll be filled with so much joy in telling them about all of your passions and all of your love about caring for your future patients. And so, throughout all of this journey and throughout all your hard work, just keep that in mind, whatever it is, whatever specialty that is that truly drives you to be a doctor every day. When you apply to it and when you get on that interview trail, all of the doctors will see that. So stay true to yourself and find that specialty that when you go to work, it feels like you've never worked a day in your life. And the program directors will see that. And also, I just want to add that I know that this is a very, very hard journey and that you may be at a point right now where you feel like giving up. But I can promise you that on that day that you match, that it is definitely, definitely worth it.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know. I can't really follow that. You usually do a pretty good job with the closing remarks.
Okay, well, I'll just end with my favorite, one of my favorite quotes then. It's from Romans 8:18. It's that your current sufferings will never be compared with the glory that's revealed within. So all the sufferings that you're going through, Casey, on your surgery rotation, or all you other students that you're going through all these hours studying, you know, trying to get these scores on this board exam and things of that nature, none of that will be compared when you heal your first patient, when your first patient tells you that you made a difference in their day, or you know, when you get a hug from that first patient. Like all these hours of studying, all these hard hours at the hospital will definitely be worth it. So stay with it, keep working hard, and you can definitely do it.
Yes.
That is such a great note to end on. Thank you guys so much.
Of course.
Thanks, Tommy. So for you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We filmed the second half to this interview, so we'll be posting these videos at the same time, so I'll put a link down below so you can hop over to Tommy and Phoebe's channel and check out their videos. And if you want to see the second half of the video where they ask me some questions, you can head on over there and check that out. So other than that, I will leave you guys here for the week, and I hope you guys have a great one studying, and that you take this interview and feel inspired and motivated to just keep working hard and know that it'll all pay off, and that we can get residencies as IMGs. I know a lot of people are so concerned about that, but it is doable, and these guys are just the perfect example of that. So thanks so much for watching, and talk to you guys next time. Bye!